Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed Kahangi. I'm a postdoctoral candidate at the Division of Structural Engineering, Lund University. Today we are with Professor Miklos Molnar, and we will have a chat and interview with Miklos, and I will ask some questions about how to apply for PhD positions, postdoctoral applicants, who is a good research candidate, and so on. So let's begin. Do you have some words, Miklos, to tell us?
Yes, well, to begin with, to introduce myself, I'm associate professor in structural engineering at Lund University. I have been conducting research since 1996, when I started as a PhD, and after graduation I worked 1.5 years at a consultancy company, but after that I continued with my PhD studies and got a position as a researcher and then assistant professor and so on. So basically I have been here since 1996.
Great. That's quite a long time. Quite.
Yes.
It's getting near to 20 years.
30 years.
30 years. Yeah.
29.
Yeah, 29 years.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's good to mention that Miklos was my PhD supervisor during my PhD at Lund University. And I always name him as the best academic father that everyone can wish for.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the next question is about what motivated you to become a researcher?
Well, basically some type of curiosity, getting a little bit behind the surface, because that's what you often meet during education. So that enticed me to think about it and to join the academic path. And I consider still, even if I work with different things in the everyday working life, the best moments are when I have time and opportunity to sit and think and look for new angles on old problems or on completely new questions. And I think this is quite unique for the academic field. Probably as a researcher at a research institute you have the same opportunity, but I think academic research gives you full freedom in many aspects.
Yeah, thank you. So what about a good researcher? Who is a good researcher in your view? I know that it's a bit hard to put some indicators for or to define a good researcher based on some criteria, but who is your top-notch researcher in your view? Which features should he or she has?
Well, I mentioned curiosity, because that will be a driving force that you need throughout your life. And then if I confine myself to technology or engineering, then you have to combine somehow to get deeply into your subject and dig out some new aspects and new knowledge. But also, I think you don't have to lose contact with the reality which your field is challenged with, or the industry or the society, not what is expected from you and from the industry. Because if you carry out your research in the field of engineering and technology, you will, in most cases, have a dialogue with industry and society. So that will somehow push you to to find solutions, both answers but also solutions that work. And that will also give you when you, not always, but sometimes you will find good solutions, and that will give you a good kickback and fill you with energy to continue and look for new challenges.
And I think most of the projects that you got granted and worked on are related into industrial and some societal aspects, or nearly all.
Nearly all, yes. In many cases in Sweden, research in the field of engineering is financed by stately funding bodies, but also the industry. And in most cases, there is a requirement to involve industry or societal actors in the project. And of course, this makes also that you have to address some questions which are considered to be relevant for the industry and society. So this is somehow goes together. You have to find relevant questions, and then it's easier to find the collaborations with the industry.
Thank you. Actually, about the curiosity that you have mentioned, we asked some questions also from some other researchers, and most of them mention also this curiosity, critical thinking as a good indicators if you want to be a researcher and then an independent researcher. In our page, it's mostly focused on students, applicants who wish to write some journal publications, who wants to apply abroad, who wants to continue their field as a PhD student, as a postdoctoral applicant or fellow, or even as some researcher. So I will ask some questions to help them how to step in regarding the application or applying process, and to the end to get the admission to enter to this mostly about Sweden or the Nordic academic environment and so on. So the first question is mostly focused on PhD applicants. So what qualities do you look for in a strong PhD applicant? So if you announce a PhD position, which qualities do you look in for a strong applicant?
Well, to begin with, I look at the relevance of the basic education, because that makes that the applicant enters the field easier. So picking people from a field which is far away, it's always can be a problem. Some people can manage that, but it's easier to step into a field which is in line with your basic education. And then I look at the grades. Of course, good cognitive potential, which is often reflected in the grades, are important, because becoming a PhD and also a postdoctoral student will involve a lot of abstract thinking and analysis, and also synthesis of knowledge. So I think grades are essential. And then depending on the nature of the proposed PhD project, because in most cases we have to provide the funding, and then we have a more or less well-defined project. In many cases, there is also an advantage if the person in question has some practical, have practiced, for example, maybe spent some time as a practicing engineer, summer internships, worked in a lab, or worked on a site. That always can be good, especially if the proposed project is experimental.
Now I'm thinking, I'm getting the answer why I was chosen for this.
Yes,
for the
you scored very well on this matrix to fulfill that. In your case, you've spent 2 years at a research institute working in the lab, and that was an important criterion in the case of your project.
And when you mentioned that you look on the grades, you look on the total average grades of the scores for the courses, or you just pick up some specific courses, or you just...
Both, but I look most of specific courses which are relevant for the field, like mathematics, physics, and then the engineering subjects.
And if we jump to postdoctoral candidates, and then I will ask some more detailed question about this application process and interviewing. So what about a postdoc applicant? What makes a postdoc stand out in your view?
Well, when we come to postdocs, normally we don't have a project which is well defined. Sometimes we have, but in most cases we don't have. So the situation is quite different from that of applying or hiring a PhD student, because when we hire a postdoc, we in most cases look for a future academic, so a person who already passed the doctoral phase, which is always a proof that the person in question is capable of doing good research. And then when we look at postdoc, we look also on other capabilities. For example, teaching ability to teach or to pedagogically explain things. Because in most cases, as an academic, you will teach, and sometimes you will teach quite a lot. In Sweden, we also have a system with financing research projects externally. So as a senior researcher, you have to apply for funding to get projects. And this is really important. And this might also differ radically from many other places in the world. So somehow Sweden is an extreme case when it comes to financing. So in light of that, we try to see whether the candidate have the ability and the personality, the right personality to interact with the industry and with society. So social skills are quite important when we look at postdocs.
And when it comes to some detailed factors like this, you mentioned the grading for the PhD applicant or doctoral applicant, then we can have some reference letter or recommendation letter, just some publications, and there are this internship that you have mentioned. What other factors do you consider, and then how you choose, or what's the weight of these factors, which are the most important factor in your view, or how do you put some weight on different factors and then reach to a decision before filtering the candidates for inviting them to the interview?
I have no numbers, of course. The candidate should score quite well on all these fields. Of course, you cannot score fully on all that. That's not realistic. So as an applicant or a candidate, you should not be discouraged to apply for a position. There are different requirements, and you maybe just partly fulfill some of the requirements. So basically, normally we have at least 2 interviews, and during the interview we try to figure out whether the candidate can have a good dialogue with interviewers. Normally we are several persons, not only me, but colleagues, also PhD students. And then we evaluate the interview. So the ability to answer questions in a good way is also quite important.
And those questions that are mostly technical or just general questions or very specific questions? Or?
We ask both technical questions. Normally we send a research article, so the candidate should read and analyze the article, and then we have a discussion on that. So this is more the professional part on it. I also look at the personal abilities or personal aspects of the student. And one important aspect is, I think the English name is grit, the ability to stand with even if you meet some difficulties. Because as life generally, also as a PhD, you will meet a lot of difficulties. Maybe the lab work doesn't go as planned, or you get some rejected articles. So almost in all cases, you have to show ability to fight and to resist, because you will meet some difficulties. Sometimes less, sometimes quite a lot. And if you don't have that ability, your time will be quite difficult. And this is not really good. So one question typically is just tell me a situation where you met some difficulties and how did you cope with them, to see whether the person, and of course I evaluate if the example is realistic or not.
Imaginary one
or a real one.
It was interesting for me that you mentioned that if there is this advertisement about the position and there are some requirements, and you mentioned that even if I interpret correctly, even if a candidate meets some of them partially or fulfills some of them, is it okay to apply still?
Yes, it is. Of course, depends on the competition, because if the competition is very strong, then you statistically will find candidates who score almost perfectly on every item. But if we go to a postdoc, normally the competition is not as strong as for PhD students. Just to give some numbers, maybe for a PhD position, you might get 50 applicants. That's quite usual. While for a postdoc position, you get 10. So then, of course, the competition will be dependent on the number of applicants. Another aspect is also the field itself, because there are popular fields, for example, research in concrete, and almost every engineering students study a lot of concrete. So I think if we announce a PhD position in concrete structures, the competition potentially is very, very high, very strong. But if we announce a more odd field, for example, masonry or timber, the competition might not be so high. So it is related to the subject and the field as well.
Just one thing that left, because many of our viewers or audiences are non-speaking English language. persons or applicants, how do you assess the proficiency of the candidate in English? How do you evaluate it?
The interviews are really important in this sense. So depending again on the number of applicants, we have a somehow listing the submitted papers and so on, the personnel, the CVs and so on, and then we almost always organize a short interview, a digital interview, and then depending on the situation we organize a longer interview with more people listening and asking questions. And in some cases we also go for personal interviews if that is manageable, because meeting somebody in person will give you a completely different depth of knowing that person. So I always recommend to my colleagues to, if it's possible, to invite the candidates, the last two, at least 2 or 3 candidates, and spend that time that is needed to meet them in person by inviting them to Sweden, or even if is that not manageable, maybe to meet somewhere abroad.
And then when it comes to postdoctoral or research applicant, then how do you prioritize between those factors? Or which factors do you look in most? Publications or these recommendation letters or research experience? You have mentioned some, but in more detailed.
Of course, the quality of the publication is important, so that's always a good sign that the person have published in good journals. But I put more emphasis, a little bit more weight on the personal abilities of the person. And this is always a little bit tricky, because even if you spend a couple of hours and you listen at lectures and so on, you still, that's quite superficial. But in my view, having this interview and having talked with the person is really important, and social abilities of the candidate are important. Again, because as a postdoc and a future academic in Sweden, you will have to do some things, and you should have some abilities which are not only related to your cognitive potential, but also the social potential.
And just one question that came to my mind. Imagine that now you are talking with the Iranian master's students in Iran, and who wants to apply for some PhD position, and then so he or she is in first year or second year of a study in master studies, and then what is your advice for him or her to improve in her or his CV or in portfolio? On which aspects I, as a candidate, should focus more on? Let's imagine I have 1 or 2 years left.
Well, again, the grades are important, and hopefully by the end of your master education, the last 1 or 2 years, you already decided in what field you would like to work or to do research. So, say if we say that you know what you would like to do, and then of course you have to show good performance in form of grades. But I would recommend to do 2 things, and one is again the internships, to have some relevant internship work, which can be during summer, or even to have a break in your study. That depends on the system, because some systems allow that and some do not. And of course the language, because the communicative skills are really important, and that's oral and written communication, because that will be important during the PhD period, because you have to produce a lot of texts and you have to communicate with supervisors, maybe technical staff in the lab, and also it's very good if you communicate with the industry. Communicating with the industry also means many cases that you should in a few years be able to speak some local language, in this case the Swedish, because in many cases the industry people are in command of very good English. They know some English, but many of the conversations are taking place in Swedish or other local language. So, of course, that's difficult to recommend. Well, you should study a lot of different languages, but to somehow be prepared, at least mentally, that could be a very good idea. Especially if you, after the PhD, want to stay in the same country and continue as a postdoc and become an academic in that country. So unfortunately, starting a PhD in a non-English language country means that you will have to study and learn an additional language. In our case, the Swedish or German or whatsoever.
Looks like you can confirm it.
Yes, but you have been successful in that.
Nice of you. Just one thing that I have noticed, but I haven't experienced, that the difference between the application system or application process in Northern American or countries like Canada or US or even Australia, you need first to contact the supervisors or potential supervisors. You need to send an email, and then you start the application by writing some proposal and etc. to be able to get some funding or position. What about Europe? Does it affect if a candidate already send an email to you or communicate through the email, or you recommend just applying through the portal application or for that advertised position?
I would go for the last one, because sending emails will in most cases not make any difference, because projects, we can start a PhD project or a postdoc project when we have funding, and especially for PhD projects we need full funding, which means at least 3 years, but basically 5 years. So in most cases we go with a call as soon as we have the funding. While receiving letters 1 year in advance or 2 years in advance will just probably be a waste of time. So in the Swedish system, I think the most efficient is to look for a relevant call and send the application. I also recommend to people to send the application. Don't wait until the last day and so on, but send the application as soon as you got your papers and you are able to send it.
Great. Actually, I saw a video yesterday about sending the late application or early application, how it affects the reviewing process of your application. And in many cases, it was recommended to apply as early as possible, as once you have all of your documents or
Formally, it should not make any difference, but in many cases, and that depends a little bit on the person in charge, how he or she wants to proceed. Some people gather all the applications, while some people start reading the applications, say, every week. So if you have an open call of 6-8 weeks, I think it's an advantage to be in the first half, to not wait too long, because even if everybody tries to be objective and try to find the best candidates, if the number of applicants is big, then you maybe stop looking after a while. I think also it's better to send your application in due time and not wait for the last evening and get into trouble with the internet or
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're living in Iran, where we have some internet connections sometimes.
Yes. But generally, systems can go down here as well, and then maybe you miss out from a good opportunity. So don't wait until the last evening.
Yeah, that's it. And Miklos has mentioned during his speaking or his talk that the PhD studies here, it takes mostly 4 years, and usually you have some teaching or departmental activities that make it to take around 5 years, which is a bit different from other countries.
Yeah.
So I will reach to the last question somehow. If you have any advice or piece of advice, or if you want to wrap up your speech or your answers, what you would you give to students? Or
I would say, to wrap it up, that since carrying out a PhD in most cases is quite a challenging task, it's rewarding in many ways, but also you have to fight a lot, and you have to solve a lot of problems. So be aware of that is a challenging thing. Of course, there are upsides with being a PhD. For example, in normal cases, you can travel and visit other countries, get an international network, and so on. But basically, being a PhD and later on also being an academic in Sweden, at least in the field of engineering and technology, is quite demanding. So you have to accept or be prepared of working hard most of the time, also accepting quite a lot of uncertainties. For example, the process of applications is sometimes quite random, how the reviewers appreciate or don't appreciate your idea. So you have to be prepared to send many applications and get some rejects and so on. So in the long term, you have to again be curious. So if you like your subject, that will fill you with a lot of energy, which is definitely needed, because you are going to spend quite a lot of time, not only on strictly academic issues, but also on writing applications, pursuing the industry, and so on. So you have to do a lot of footwork to make it.
So I think I asked all of my questions, and I appreciate for the time that you put in to answer our questions. And I'm quite sure that it will help lots of students or applicants who are willing to apply abroad, especially in Nordic context or in Sweden. Thank you for taking your time.
Yes, thank you very much for this nice dialogue. Yeah. good luck with your future plans.
Thank you.
Just for motivation, it's a question that we may cut it.
Yeah.
During your academic journey, you may see lots of Iranian applicants or a student. Do you see any special characteristic or a special points that you can mention about them that they can keep it and it's just for Iranian applicants? For the students.
For PhD students, yeah. Well, I think generally because I have also older colleagues and colleagues from Iran, so they are already in place that if I compare with Swedish students, I think the average Iranian student is very ambitious or more ambitious and maybe more prepared to work hard. I think our students are a little bit more laid back.
So they can keep their ambitions and hardworking.
Yes, and this is, of course, always you generalize, which is can be difficult, but generally, I think you can, if you say, okay, how is an Iranian student? I think I would say that is ambitious and has high level of motivation. Of course, compared to say Swedish students or maybe other students as well. So, and then that's of course very good.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.